Hi guys, welcome to my tutorial. Today we are going to be making a crochet rainbow wind spinner. This is my take on the classic pattern. So mine includes some little cluster stitches and a shell stitch to finish around the outside. As you can see, it sort of makes it look like a flower. We're also going to do a little crochet heart and a tassel at the end. Obviously, as my camera's set up right now, it's a very small screen, so as I try to show you, obviously I can't show you the full length. So what I'm going to do is at the end of the tutorial, I'm going to pop a little mini video on there of the full length spinner in action. Okay, right, so that's that there. And then also what you're going to need, I've just made this in a standard acrylic double knit yarn. Using a 3mm crochet hook, and you're also going to need a darning needle and a pair of scissors. Of course, I've done it in a rainbow colour, but you can choose whichever colourway that you prefer. Okay, so let's get started. Okay guys, so I'm going to start with the lilac. Just to note that whatever colour you do your foundation chain in, that is the one that's going to end up becoming your central column of your wind spinner. Okay. So I'm going to start with the lilac as per my picture, and to begin with we're going to create a slip knot and then we are going to chain 51. So to create a slip knot, there are various different ways. You probably have your own way already, but for those that don't, you simply grab your piece of yarn, pull it up over your index finger once, over your index finger twice, hold on to that there. Then with the first loop you pull that one up over the second loop, and then you pull that second loop up and over the first loop as well as your fingertip. Then you pull your finger up and insert your hook, and your slip knot is created. I'll show you one more quickly. Yarn up over your finger once, up over your finger twice, pull the first loop up over the second loop, then the second loop up over the first and the fingertip, pull your finger up and insert your hook. Okay, so now we are going to chain 50 and then an extra one to start off with, because we're going to be beginning our foundation chain into the second chain from the hook. So we need 51 in total. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 37, 38, 39, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50 and 1. So to begin our round 1, we are going to single crochet. This is in US terms, so if you work in UK terms this would be a double crochet. I'm going to be working a single crochet in each chain along, starting from the second chain from the hook. So not this one here, this second chain here, the second V. And it doesn't matter which loop you insert it into. So you literally just insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop and pull through both loops. Okay, so we're going to single crochet or double crochet in UK terms in every single stitch all the way along, and then until we get to the end. So then we'll have 50 for our starting foundation chain, and that will be our round 1 complete. And I'll leave you to do that now, and I'll meet you back at the end in a moment. So now I've reached the penultimate stitch of round 1. For those of you that would like to change colour, this is the point where I would choose to do it. So to change colour is pretty simple. Basically you continue to do your single crochet as you would all the others, but you don't yarn over for the second time and pull through the 2 loops with the same colour yarn. You then use that with your colour change. So I'm changing now to the blue, pull through both loops of the purple, yarn over so that you've chained 1, and that is round 1 complete. So now we need to turn our work to begin round 2, and round 2 is exactly the same again, another 50 single crochets, but we need to start in back in under this chain space here, so right in the very beginning, ensuring that our first one is started right there. So then that's 1, 2, obviously working under the V's like you always do with single crochets, 3, 4, and there's your 5th. So if you continue working along again as you did with round 1, if you stop at the penultimate stitch, if you're choosing to change colour on the next round, then please do that and I'll meet you back there in a moment. Okay, so now I've reached the 49th stitch and I'm going to change colour to a peach. So the same as with round 1, insert your hook into the final stitch, begin your single crochet as you normally would, and then on the yarn over and pull through 2 loops you would use your change of colour. So for round 3, instead of just chaining the 1, we're now going to chain 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. So now we're going to begin work on round 3. Now on round 3 we are going to make 2 double crochets in US terms, or treble crochets in UK terms, in each of the stitches. Okay, so this first chain here, that does count as your first double crochet. So that's 2 in the first one. So to do the double crochet, it's pretty simple. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull through your yarn like you would with a single crochet, yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over again, pull through 2. Once more, so you yarn over your hook first, then insert it back into that same stitch because we're doing 2 into the 1 stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. Okay, so we're going to be doing 2 double crochets in every single crochet stitch from round 2. Okay, and this is where you'll start to see the curve taking shape. Right, so if I'll leave you to get on with that, and I'll meet you again back at the end, and we will change colour again. So if you stop off at the penultimate stitch, and we will do that and work up to our round 4. Okay, so I've now come to the end of round 3. I have, in the final chain, I have inserted my first double crochet. Then to do a colour change with a double crochet, what you do is you begin your stitch as normal, yarn over with the same colour, pull through the first 2 loops of your original colour, and then when you are changing over, yarn over again and pull through those second dot of 2 loops there. And to begin round 4, we're going to be chaining 3. So 1, 2 and 3. And then we're going to turn our work. Just before I carry on, just to show you that now you can see we are starting to get our spiral. After those double crochet increases, it's starting to take shape now. With this round, we're not going to be doing any increases as such because I'm going to be doing a round of cluster stitches. I didn't want the spiral to go too awry, so what I've done, ordinarily in a cluster stitch you would insert 5 double crochets into the same space, but with this pattern I've just done 4 just to help keep the spiral a bit neater, as it could end up going a bit haywire. So we've got our chain 3 there, and then within this first stitch I'm going to do another 3 double crochets. But what you do if you've not done a cluster stitch before is you begin your stitch and you yarn over and pull through your first 2 loops, but you leave these last 2 loops on your hook until the end. Okay, so then as if we were doing another double crochet, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over again and pull through just 2 loops. So now we have got 3. So no matter how many double crochets you do, you always have an extra one for your stitches. I'll show you again on a fresh one because obviously we've got our chain 3 there. I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over 2 once more. So ordinarily you would have 5 loops on your hook there, but because I've got the starting chain, I've only got the 4. So to finish your cluster stitch off, you yarn over one last time and then you pull through all of the loops that are on your hook. Okay, then in the next stitch we're just going to single crochet, UK times, that's just a double crochet, and then we're going to go straight back in with another cluster stitch. So with a fresh cluster stitch, you yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 once, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 twice. So we've got 3 there on the hook. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 a third time, and then we're going to do one more, 4th and final time. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's your 4. So now you can see we've got the 5 loops on our hook. So then one more time, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops, and that is a cluster stitch right there. Then so we're going to continue with the sequence of a cluster stitch and a single crochet. So single crochet, I'll do one more cluster stitch quickly. So it's 1, 2, remember just 2 loops every time, 3, and 4th time. So you've got 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, that's your cluster stitch, and then you're going to do a single crochet in the one immediately after. And you're going to continue this sequence until you get to the end of this round, and I will meet you back there to show you what to do next. Now we've come to the end of round 4. I'm in my final cluster stitch there, at the point where I would normally go in and perform the single crochet in the next stitch, but because I don't have an extra stitch there, what I'm going to do is I am going to yarn over and pull up that blue yarn there just to secure that cluster stitch, otherwise it will come unraveled if I change colour then instead. So what I'm actually going to do is I've got the chain 1 there, and then I'm just going to attach my next colour for round 5 within that other chain there, and chain 1 with that one to secure. Then just pull your blue really tightly, and then you'll see that that chain 1 loop has kind of disappeared back into the stitch there. Okay, so now we are ready for our round 5, and to do that we're going to chain 3, 2 and 3, and turn our work. And also, before I begin, I just thought I'd mention as well, don't panic if you get halfway through and you think, oh my god, it's not turning into a spiral, it's a right mess, it's all over the place. Don't worry about that at all. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely normal that it's going to be doing that as you're working it. At the end of the video, I will show you how to put it all right and for it to become that perfect spiral again. Okay, so on to round 5. I've changed my colour. Of course, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Now on top of each stitch we are going to be working 3 double crochets into each stitch. Okay, I'm going to do it into this first space here. So we've got our chain 3, and within that final V there at the end of round 4 I'm going to work another 2 double crochets as the chain 3 acts as our first one. Okay, then your next stitch is going to be the next V along, which will be on top of your bubble stitch, your cluster stitch effectively. So you work another 3 into that V there. So forget the sizes because they are 2 different sizes. Forget the sizes of the V's and just see them as individual stitches. So that's 3 into that second stitch, and then you've got your next V there. Can you see? So you've got 1 to the right of the cluster stitch, and then you've got 1 on top of the cluster stitch, 1 to the right of the cluster stitch, and then 1 on top, and then you just do that. So 3 double crochets in each stitch all the way along to the end, and again your spiral will become more twisted with these increases. But like I say, don't worry about the fact that it's not, you know, look at mine, don't worry about that. I will show you at the end how to create it, turn it back into the spiral. Okay, so continue along in each of the stitches. So there's 2 to each cluster, 1 to the right and 1 on top, and you continue entering 3 double crochets or 3 trebles in UK terms, and I'll meet you back at the end again as always. Now we've got to the end of round 5. Your work should be looking a little bit something like this. So you've got your initial single crochet, your second round of single crochets, your double crochet increases, your cluster stitch, and then your 3 double crochets in each of your stitches from round 4. So now, as always, we've got to the final stitch and we're going to change colour. I'm going to go back to the lilac again because we're just for the 6th round. We are just going to do 1 row of single crochet stitches. So it's just a single crochet. So chain 1, turn your work, and a single crochet back in to that first one there, and then single crochet all the way along until you get to the very end again, and then we'll be moving on to our 6th and final round, and that round we will be doing some shell stitches. Okay, so if I meet you back at the end again, I'll have my colour change already done, and then I will show you how we'll start our shell stitch round. Right, so we're going to have a slight revision. I'm not going to change colour at the end of this round. What I'm actually going to do is, so I've done my final stitch, I'm going to do 1 more chain, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, pull that up and finish that off in the purple, because I'm going to start the yellow back here in this very first set of crochets. So then we've got a yellow border, it just neatens it all up around the edge, and then we'll go into our shell stitches at the end. So I'm going to attach my yellow, or whatever colour that you would have obviously, on your outer layer. Which way are we working? We're going to be working that way. So if we come in from the back, so turn our work to the right side, come in from the back of the, come in from the front, and then bring the yarn through the back of the purple on the very first round one. Move your strands out of the way a minute. So attach your shell stitch colour to your purple, and then what I'm going to do with all the ends, rather than cutting them off, having to fasten them and cut them off, I'm going to stitch them in with the yellow stitches. So I'm not going to do a set amount on these, I'm literally just going to go in to the ends of each of the rows and just add some stitches. So there, obviously it's quite a big gap, so I'm actually going to insert 2 stitches of the yellow into there. Being careful not to drag your tail in. It might be worth actually putting your tail in with the other colours as well, so you're sewing it all in together, getting rid of all those loose ends, and then just find the gaps wherever you can. It can be a bit fiddly, but do whatever you need to do to get a fairly neat finish. It's just to tidy up the edges a little bit. Again, there's quite a gap there with the apricot, the peach. I mean, it's not perfect, but it just helps tidy up those edges a little bit, even everything out. Again with the blue. So those tails there, you can probably trim off now from those first few rows, which is what I'll do, just try and keep everything a little bit neater. Let's cut them a bit shorter and then just stitch over the top. Try and get into that cluster stitch as well, so that it doesn't make too much of a gap. It is a bit fiddly, but I mean, you can finish the ends off and work them all back into the crochet if you prefer. It's just, I'm sort of doing a bit of a cheats way, really. Bit of a cheats finish. Ensuring that you pull these tails short, because like that just there, that my chain 4 of my pink was pulling out quite a bit, so that you don't have quite such a big gap into there. I think we'll do one in there. And I think I'll do, okay, so now we are at the end. We're going to create a corner. I'm just going to trim, leave the purple tail because obviously we haven't worked that one in yet. Trim the blue and the peach, and then because we're working around a corner, I'm going to insert 3 single crochets into that space there, just to bring everything out round, keep it a little squarer. So as you can see, it's still not, you know, a dead straight line, but it just tidies everything up a little bit, keeps it looking that little bit neater. Okay, so onto the shell stitches. What we're going to do is we're actually going to skip this first stitch space there, and then we are going to work 5 double crochets into the next stitch. So 1, and these are 5 complete double crochets, so 2, 3, 4 and 5, and obviously that would be a treble crochet in UK terms. So that's our first shell. Then what next thing we're going to do is skip the next stitch, and then in the stitch after that we are going to slip stitch. Okay, so it's literally pull up a loop and pull through, so no yarning over, just pulling up through. Again, we're just going to go straight in and start our next shell. So we're going to skip the next stitch, then into the next stitch after that we're going to work our 5 double crochets. So 1, 2, working our purple tail in as well, we can trim that off in a second, 3, 4 and 5. So that's our second shell. Again, as we did with the last one, we're going to skip a stitch and then crochet into this next one here, and we're going to slip stitch into there, and then we are going to skip another stitch and do another shell of 5 double crochets, and then we're going to continue along all the way along until the end, repeating that. So it's 5 double crochets in one stitch to create your shell, then you skip a stitch, then you slip stitch in the next one, then you skip the stitch after that, and then it's the 5 double crochets to create your shell in the stitch after that again. So 5 double crochets for your shell, skip the next stitch, slip stitch into this one, skip this one, and create your 5 double crochet shells again, and finish that all the way to the end, and then I'll meet you back there once you finish your last shell. We've now reached the end of round 6, the end of our shells. So your work should look something like this now. Okay, right, so I've come to the end. I've just completed my last shell stitch and I've got one little stitch left there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch into the end. It could be a bit tough, but try and jimmy your hook into that hole there, slip stitch into there, and then into this next stitch here, this next gap, we're going to stitch 1 single crochet and then we're going to, as before on the other end, we're going to conceal these loose ends from the previous rounds. So just judge by eye the size of the gap and the amount of stitches you think you'd need to fill it. Just single crochet all the way along. Just tying in those ends there, just tidying the whole thing up really. Yeah, it's worth mentioning while I am doing this that obviously I started with a chain of 50, but if you would like to make a spinner that's longer, then you would add more chains. You'd do maybe 60, 70 or upwards. And if you wanted an overall larger size spinner, then you could use a thicker yarn or a larger hook size. I've gone for the 3mm with this because with the double knit I find that with a 4mm hook with my particular tension that it's quite gappy, and I prefer not to see any gaps between the stitches ideally. So that's why I've done the 3mm with the 50 stitches. Right, so we're nearly at the ends there. Just stitch down. If you find you've stitched a little bit too high, it doesn't matter, just stitch over the top of that. Back in, yarn over and pull through. It's just to conceal these ends really more than anything else. Could actually do a trimming those down a bit now. Remember, don't trim your purple. Okay, last couple of stitches. Obviously you can be a bit neater about this, but I'm just demonstrating for the purposes of the video. Right, so now we've reached the end of our purple there. I'm just going to do one more stitch actually just to thicken that gap up. Let's do that again because my hook slipped out. Back up. Right, so that's your round of single crochet. So again, it's just tidied the edge up a little bit and it's made it look a little bit more consistent with the yellow trim. So pull up that one, snip off the end, pull up the loop and fasten off. So I mean, it's up to you how you want to fasten off. You can do it all properly where you go back across the stitches and back through and then weave your ends in. Or if you're like me, I hate this particular part of crocheting, so I will cut corners wherever possible. And as this is going to be our bottom, I think, I'm just going to simply tie a knot in those. And then what I'll do is when we've finished, as a finish, I will weave the ends back in. So I'll weave the ends in through the stitches there and back through the stitches here. And I'll also come along with the scissors and trim these little edges up here. Okay, right, so that's our main spinner finished for the moment. Like I said, the ends will get weaved in afterwards. So as you can see, it does end up a bit of a mess, a bit of a jumble as you're working with it. So what we ought to do, let me just trim that one off there. Like I say, at the end it's just these finishing off these little tiny bits here. Look, if you pull them that little bit higher, you can sort of hide them within the yellow there. Okay, so actually that is our top piece there, isn't it? So what you do now to reshape your spinner into the correct way is you get the top or bottom piece, whichever, and you twist it, sorry, I'm trying to get the camera in, into neat, even spirals. So as you're going round, you just keep on twisting on itself, and you'll feel when it needs to be turned and flipped around. So you keep twisting so it starts to look like coasters stacked on top of each other. So you keep twisting all the way to the end. As they flip where you need to flip, you will realise what I mean by that as you're doing it. Okay, so this is the top because we've got our cluster stitches facing the right way up. Okay, like I said, with the ends and things, we can neaten all that up afterwards. It's really not a problem. So there you have your ravelled spinner. So like I said, nice, neat, even. Try and get the circles as even as possible, and then as you pull up, you'll see that they're much more evenly spaced and much more spiral-like now. Right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to add a hanging cord to the top, and then we're going to get to work on the heart and the tassel to finish. With the hanging cord, of course, you can choose whatever colour you like. I'm going to use the purple again, just to follow through with the centre line. Basically try and pick the stitch that's near the sort of the purple stitch that's, or the stitch from round one that's nearest between the two, and pull up your yarn and just attach your yarn there with a simple double knot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work in through this, and we're going to work a chain of 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 15, 20, 21, 22, 5, 30, 39 and 40. So to create our loop, we are then going to slip stitch back into the very same stitch that we started this chain from. So yarn over, pull through the stitch, and then up through that final loop that you've just made, that final chain. Now you can leave the hanging cord like this if you like, but to strengthen it, as it's only one chain width, I prefer to, if you slip stitch in the back loops of each of these chains, you'll find that it now will create like a nice sort of thick cord. You can see by my finished one there, rather than just the single chain. It's really nice, thick, strong loop there. So slip stitch into the back bump. So that's the front. You can see that there's V's. The V's are the front, and then if you turn it round to the back, you will see that there are the two V's, and then you've got bumps in between each one, those little bumps there, and they are what you want to slip stitch into, and that just creates a nice round cord rather than a square flat one. Okay, I'm not going to do that just now because we will get on with the rest of the video, but yeah, so that's what you would do for that cord. Obviously you can choose the colour and the length if you prefer something a bit longer. I just found that the 40 chains was just the right amount for that one. Okay, so that's the end of that. Now we're going to move on to our heart and then our tassel, and then we are done. Now we're going to work into our we're going to create our heart. I've made this in the purple because that's my accent colour for the rest of my spinner. Of course, you can choose whatever colour you prefer. So to begin this one, we're going to use a magic ring to start with this rather than a slip knot. For those of you that haven't made a magic ring before, the way that I choose to do it is I use my yarn again and my index finger. I yarn over once, yarn over twice, cross over, so you make a cross on your finger. You get your hook and you go under the first loop, over the second loop. Okay, under the first loop, over the second loop, pull the yarn under that first loop, twist your hook so it's facing upright, pinch the knot, remove your finger, yarn over your hook and pull that through that loop that's already on the hook there, okay? And then you just tweak to tighten, and that is your magic ring. So you'll have a loop and you'll have your tail there, okay? So we're going to begin our heart by chaining 3, 1, 2 and 3. Then we're going to work into the magic rings, into the big loop, 2 double crochets in US terms, or 2 treble crochets in UK terms. Okay, so that's 3. So it creates, so your chain 3 counts as your first double crochet, so it creates a block of 3. Then we're going to chain 3 and then insert into the ring 3 double crochets, 2 and 3. Then again we're going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, and another 3 double crochets into that magic ring. So there you can see you have like 3 separate blocks. We're going to make one more, so we need to chain 3 again, 2 and 3, and then another 3 double crochets into the center, and 3. Chain 3 more, 2, 3. Grab your tail from your magic ring and just tighten it slightly, just so then you can see it's pulled everything together. So then now what we need to do is we need to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 there, okay? And then once you do that, you will see it creates a little square, okay? So that's round 1 complete. So on to round 2. Now we need to make a chain of 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. We need to skip over this first block of double crochets. So we skip over those completely and we start work in this first corner, this first chain 3 space. And in that chain 3 space, we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2 and 3. Then we're going to chain 3, 2, 3, and then in that same space, back in that same corner, we're going to work another 3 double crochets. So then what this does is it extends the size of your corner and eventually extends your square. You will see as we go round. Okay, now before we skip over this one here, we're going to chain 1. So chain 1, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets and another 3 chains, and then another 3 double crochets in that corner. So that's 2, 3, then chain 3, and then work another 3 double crochets into that corner again. So 1, 2, 3. So then you can see it's starting to look, it should look like that. So you've got your corner there diagonally opposite the previous corner. Then we're going to chain 1 again, skip over the middle block, work 3 double crochets, followed by 3 chains, and then another 3 double crochets back into that same space, that same corner, the chain 3 space. Okay, and again chain 1, 3 double crochet into this last corner, 1, 2 and 3. Now we're going to chain 3, but now we're only going to do another 2 double crochets into this corner space. Oh, mind your tail. So 1 and 2, because we're going to be slip stitching into that chain 3. That chain 4, that will count as our other double crochet. So with our chain 4, we're not going to be slip stitching into the 4th chain here. We're going to be slip stitching into the 3rd, so that it leaves a 1 chain gap after the slip stitch. Okay, so after the join. So the 3rd chain, slip stitch into that, so that it squares everything off nice and neatly. So now you've got your little square. Okay. Now for round 3, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our last round as well. And we're going to double crochet 11 into this chain 1 space here. Okay. So we're going to double crochet 11 back into here. So 1, 2, all in the same space, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. It does get a bit, you can move your stitches around a little bit to give yourself a bit more space, and 11. Okay, so that's 11 double crochet, and you've got your chain 4 from the beginning, which will count as your other double crochet. So you've got effectively, you've got 12 within that chain 1 space. Okay, then what we're going to do is slip stitch. So that's the start. We're going to slip stitch into this corner here. So skip this block of 3, slip stitch into this chain 3 space, like so. Then we're going to make 12 double crochets into this chain 1 space here. So we're going to skip this block of 3 again, then we're going to work into this chain 1 space. So 12 double crochet this time. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, then what we're going to do is single crochet into the next corner. So not slip stitch, single crochet into this next corner. So 1 single crochet. Then we are going to single crochet into the next 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet. So into the top of those. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets. the chain 1 space, the next 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Then we are going to single crochet 5 into this next corner, this next chain 3 space, the space opposite the divot in the heart top there. Okay, so we're going to do 5, so this is the bottom of your heart, so 5 single crochets in this. This just helps create the point, otherwise if we only did the one it would just be really round at the bottom. So that's 3, 4 and 5. There we go, so that's our 5 stitches there. Then we are going to single crochet again in the next 3 double crochets, 2 and 3, single crochet in the chain 1 space, and then 3 again, 1 in each of the double crochets. There you go. Then again 1 last, so we've got it looking like this. Look, you can really see the heart shape now. We've got 1 last corner space there, so 1 single crochet into that chain 3 space, that final gap, and then we are going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round. Go like that. Okay, and there you have your little heart. Okay, and there's your heart. Right, so next we're going to move on to the tassel, and then I will show you how I join everything together as well. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run you through how I do a tassel. Obviously there are methods using cardboard and your hand, etc., or you can get actual tassel makers, but all I've done is cut 5 strands of each colour. I've cut them about 35 centimeters long each. Then I'm getting another single strand, and what I've done is just thread that through the middle, so fold them in half, all of the strands in half like that, looping that single strand around them like so, and then simply tie a double knot in the top there, nice and tight. Leave those tails, make sure you have a nice long piece because you'll need the tails for attaching this to the heart in a minute. So there you go, so now they're tied together, and then get another piece of yarn, doesn't really matter what colour or length. I'm just going to use the yellow, and then judge roughly where you want your sort of bulbous part of your tassel to be, what sort of size you want it to be. I'm just going to go for it there, and then again nice and tight and double knot again. And then what you just do, you can either trim the ends off or you can just feed them into the other tails, and there's your little super easy, super simple rainbow tassel. Just going to trim the edges so they're nice and neat. There you go, so that's that one there. Then what I do to attach it to the bottom of my heart, so I attach it in here into this bottom loop. It helps also to make the heart even more pointed, but before then, rather than fastening off and then crochet and chains and things like that, what I've found is if you just loosely knot it again on top, just loosely, so that they're sitting on top of each other rather than creating a big double knot, eventually it just makes like a little chain. Sorry, it's totally not in the screen there. So just an ordinary knot like so, like I say, just loosely, don't do it too tightly, and then if you ease it gently, it becomes like a little chain. Can you see that? So it's like a little chain link chain. And then just tie it on to the bottom end of your heart and double knot at the back, and I would trim the ends so that there's about 2 centimeters left, and then weave those ends in underneath your back stitches there, so it leaves a nice neat finish. And again with the heart, that's exactly what I did as well, is I attached another strand of purple and then did the knots on top of each other loosely, and again joined up the top, double knotted, and then weaved in the ends. And that there is your finished wind spinner. And what I'll do is I'll pop another video just after this of the whole thing upright in length so that you can actually see what the finished product really does look like. Okay, thanks for watching, guys, and if you don't forget, if you love my tutorial, please hit the subscribe button, because I've got tons more content coming soon, loads more videos, lots more original patterns and my takes on other classic versions, as well as lots of basic stitch tutorials and things like that. There's a lot in the pipeline, so hit the subscribe button or follow us on Instagram, like the video, it really would help us out. Okay, so now I'll leave you to have a quick look at the video clip of it in its full length, and happy crocheting. Thanks again, guys.